What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of What If You Could. And we have a real fun treat on our hands today. I met this wonderful young lady. A lot of people know that our son is running for city council. And I went into the Patriot store, and holy cow, ran into this tornado of a wonderful young lady. I said, I love you. Let's get you on the podcast. So, welcome, Velma Hagar. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm
You
so
look
good
good.
and so glad to be here.
You look good. We're going to have some fun. So, but before we kick this off, and I just stop talking, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little history on Velma here, real quick. So, Velma Hagar. What if you could?
What
Well,
if you
she
could?
did. She
She
did.
did it. She
Single
did it.
mom with 3 kids, no child support, and she went from rags to riches
Yep.
using
She
lots
did
of
it.
ingenuity and lots of help from God.
Amen.
Author of 2 5-star books on Amazon, Hidden Treasures in Secret Places and Hidden Treasures in Dark Places, both on Amazon.com. Chaplain for East Valley Republican Women's Patriots, the largest conservative women's club in the country with 2,200 members. Motivational speaker, has a YouTube channel called Hidden Treasures and Secret Places. She's a TikTok sensation under Bubby Hagar with 77,000 followers, which is 77,000 more than me. Mother of 3, grandmother of 10, great grandmother of 3. I know she doesn't look like she's a great grandma.
Great grandma.
Hey, grandma, sister of Sammy Hagar, the Red Rocker, rock star and member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I can't drive 55.
And
I
neither
can't,
can I.
can't do
Neither
it.
can I.
She's got the Palm Desert City Award, one of the founders of El Paseo, which is our rodeo drive of the
Yes, it
desert.
is.
Owned and operated 3 businesses on El Paseo for 40 years, and is a co-founder of our amazing and wonderful, fun, and great fundraiser, the Golf Cart Parade.
I'm proud of that one.
You're
Yeah.
right. Velma has lived in Palm Desert since 1964, and when she got here, there was only 1,300 people in all of Palm Desert. Now we're about 55,000.
Yep. That's right.
She has worked to help the city incorporate and was the campaign manager for Dick Kite, who was one of the first to run for city council.
Mhm.
Now, Velma sent me that bio. I always ask people to send me a bio, but I wanted to add a little extra because I think her books are really special. So if
They
you allow
are.
me, I
I
just
would
want to
love it.
read about these. Okay. So if you go on Amazon, you'll see 2 of Velma's books. Hidden Treasures in Dark Places is the second book of encouragement and inspiration written by Velma Hagar. These daily pearls of wisdom come from a simple, delightful, unchurchy, and profound perspective. They are composed of life's applications, instructions based on biblical principles, and were initially written for her children and grandchildren. Eventually, Velma found her friends requesting these words of inspiration, so she began to post them on social media. The results grew to unmanageable numbers, and her first book, Hidden Treasures and Secret Places, was born. Velma continues to post daily and created a second book in the series, Hidden Treasures in Dark Places. No matter where you are in life, these daily pearls of wisdom, when applied, will enhance each day and take you to places beyond your expectations. I freaking love that. That's
Don't you love it? Thank you for adding that. Thank you.
Yay! Well, to me, that was really special. I mean, that's a beautiful
Oh,
thing. And for, and I think more people need to put their thoughts down on paper, especially for the kids and stuff. So I guess one of my very limited questions is, did you ever see yourself being an author?
That's one of the things. First of all, let me say the title of your podcast, "What If You Could," is right in my wheelhouse, exactly in my wheelhouse. Because honestly, it's really interesting how I got that first book, and I'm going to tell that story because I just love it. It was partially told there. I began writing those little blogs, never dreaming that I was writing a book. Never in my mind. People are always saying to me, "How do I go about writing a book? Where do I start?" And I go, "Don't ask me because I didn't know I was writing a book. I had no idea." But what happened was I began to write those little blogs, and I've been doing them, Gary, for 18 years and never missed a day. Never miss a day. I write them every single day. And I started writing to my children, as I said there. I wanted my kids to get a good base, but I knew if I was too churchy, they wouldn't read it. So I did it very down to earth and very in it. And as it said, my friends loved it. People kept saying to me, "You need to write a book. You need to write a book." And they told me this over and over and over. And I would go, "I know, I know, I know." So one day, this woman calls me from Minnesota. She'd been a follower on Facebook. And she says, "I'm here in the desert and I'd like to meet you for coffee." And I go, "Okay." And she goes, "You need to write a book." Well, yeah, I know, I know. And she said, "And I'm going to help you do it." She said, "You know what we'll do?" And I was 73 at the time. See, and I'm like, I'm me and Grandma Moses, you know what I mean? And so she says, "I'm going to help you do it. We're going to extract all of those blogs that you've been putting on Facebook all these years, and we're going to just compile them. You tell me what you want to call it, get a cover ready for it, and write a little, entrance into it, and we'll turn it into a book."
Mm-hmm.
That was how I got my first book. When that book came, I'm telling you, I always say that one of my mantras is, if you're faithful with a little, you'll get a lot. That is kind of like who I am. Faithful with a little, you'll become ruler of much. So when I got that book, I had no idea. I'm picturing she's going to do a little, this little thin, little flappy thing. And my God, it was hard covered. It was beautiful. And I took that book and I put it against my breast and I went, "Oh my God, when you're faithful with a little, you get a lot." All I did was write that little blog every day and it turned into a book. So now a few years go by and everybody's saying, "Are you going to write a sequel? Are you going to write?" Well, no, I'm not going to write a sequel. I'm really getting old now, right?
Right.
So, but first of all, I missed one step. I forgot this, and this is an important step. I have my little deck upstairs, and I'm up there sitting on the deck before the gal calls me to tell me she wants to talk to me. And I say to God out loud, because I have to tell you right now, I talk to God all the time. I live alone in the house, me and my dog. God lives here with us. And
So
I
it's just,
said,
so basically, it's just the three of you.
yeah, just the three of us here. And so I say to God, "If you want me to write a book, you're going to have to drop it in my lap." So that was when the girl calls and I end up doing, okay, he did. He literally dropped it in my lap. So now a few years go by and everybody's at it again. "You need to do a sequel. You need to do a sequel." So I'm up there and I say it again. "God, if you want me to write another book, you're going to have to drop it." Well, doggone. On my 80th birthday, Hidden Treasures in Dark Places was published. And it was so simple this time because we knew what we were going to do. All we had to do is go. She told me the first time, "You have enough in here to write 10 books. Probably today I could do 20 books with what I've done over the years. I've written, now there's 2 a day in the book. It's written in a sequence, like a little daily devotional, and every day there's 2 blogs. So, I mean, it's nothing. But honestly, some days I read that, Gary, and I go, "I needed to hear that," or I'll say, "I didn't even know I knew that." "Oh my God, that's so good. I didn't even know I knew it." Have you looked at it at all to look inside of it?
I did. Oh, I perused through it on the Amazon site.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But I have not picked it up. No, I didn't
Because
even until we started talking just the other day. I'm like, holy cow, I didn't know you had
it is
actually books.
it is amazing. Let me just pull one. We ought to do this right now. Let me just see this right here. Because here they are. This is my first one.
Wow.
And this is my second one.
They're big.
Well, and this is the soft covers. I have hard covers too. The hard covers are beautiful. They
So
look
when I go
lovely.
buy one, are you going to sign it for me? You're going to
Yes.
autograph it for
And
me?
when I die, it'll be famous. You'll be famous. It'll be worth
Right.
money
No,
when
you're
I die.
already famous. Don't die. You don't need to. We don't want you going
Well, I'm
anywhere to get
old,
famous.
Now let's just see for the fun of it. Let's see what it says today. I have no idea. Today's the 3rd, right?
Yes.
I love to do this. Now I do Bible studies. I do all kinds of, motivational speaking, and I take these with me. I don't read what they say beforehand. I read for the day and I teach on that, on the subject. It's so simple for me. It's so easy. So we're going to read what it says for the day.
Well,
Just so,
you're so shy and withdrawn. I don't know how you get through these.
geez, when the heck is my, I told you, just give me the mic and I'll run. I can run with it. Oh, here. Okay, here this is. Okay, so this is today's. Now, this is the first book, and it says, holding grudges against people will make you sick. It doesn't matter what you can rationalize why you are holding the grudge. God does not give us any excuses for unforgiveness. It doesn't matter if it is an ex-wife or ex-husband or children that were conceived from a previous marriage, or a relative that has wronged you, or even a political figure you don't agree with. Unforgiveness and haughtiness will bring you down. And it always has one scripture. Now, here's the scripture. As you forgive, you are forgiven. So always had one scripture at least. Now, my first book is not quite as sophisticated, I don't think, as my second one. I've been writing longer, right?
Mhm.
And so the first book, when you see them real short, can you see that, how short that one is
Oh
right there?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. We have a
That
lot of
that
devotional books laying around, so I know exactly the
this
format. They're great.
I
Love
probably
it.
did this one 15 years ago. If you think, oh look, you're gonna like that, you're gonna like this. It goes, if you think you can, you can. Ha, isn't that good? I mean, this is great for being on your
Was
show to
that
have
meant
this
for
come out.
today or
I
what?
didn't even know that is today's. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. Never allow yourself to doubt your abilities. Negative thoughts bring negative results. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. That's my scripture. Ask God for help in everything and then proceed, knowing you can do it. We're going to leave it at
What
that.
if you could?
What if you could? Now, and of
Right?
course, and then this one
That's an
is,
awesome day to have that and do
it's,
this.
I have to tell you something, Gary. This is so crazy, but that always happens. It always happens. I teach classes and I'll get them over there and I'll get in there and I'll start talking about something. And then we open the book. It fits. I would guess, without exaggerating, 75% of the time it will fit right where I'm at. It's crazy. It's just crazy. It's like God knows where I'm going to be and what I'm going to be doing. But anyway, with that said, what if you could? What if you could? Well,
So let me ask you something else though, because with all this going on, you are a TikTok and you're like an internet sensation.
oh,
Did you
TikTok
think at
love me.
80 years old you were going to be an
No,
internet sensation?
let me tell you something. And even, my brother, Sammy Hagar, right?
Yeah.
I go on TikTok and I have grandkids that are like in their 30s. And so, they're always, oh, they call me Bubby. And so my granddaughter says to me, let's set up a little TikTok account for you, Bubby. They always call these little things like Bubby-isms. It's little things that I say that they get a kick out of.
Bubbyisms?
Bubbyisms. They call me Bubby. And the Bubbyisms are like, I don't know, I say something and they go, you have the strangest little vocabulary. So they wanted to do this TikTok thing and they set me up as Bubby Hagar. And so as I told you, I make my own limoncello.
Yep.
And so I was making my limoncello and my granddaughter videotaped me doing it. And, of course, I was a little theatrical. I did a little more theatrical than I usually do when I'm making it, take a little swig out of the bottle, just to make a little scene for the kids. Well, it went viral. It got 2.4 million views. 2.4 million views. Well, I mean, I was like an overnight success because when you get that many views on one video, they subscribe.
Yeah.
So I got all kinds of
So now we need Bubby's limoncello.
honestly,
Where
but
are the marketers for
Bubby's
this? Let's get this on
limoncello
the
is
market.
amazing.
Let's get this on the market. We're
Bubby
missing an
drinks,
opportunity here.
she
Now,
drinks her
now
limoncello.
I need to ask you, since you're a limoncello aficionado, and I've had a lot of homemade limoncello because I used to have a very good friend who lived in Italy and we'd go over there all the time. Now, I kept mine in the freezer. Is that
You can,
okay?
a lot of people do that,
All
and
right.
it's really good like that.
I don't
But I
want to
have to
break
tell
any
you,
rules.
no, I have definitely fine-tuned my limoncello. It's like nothing you've ever had because you have a basic place you start, and then you kind of do it to where you like it. Like I don't like it real strong, and I don't like it real sweet because I drink it every day, so I don't want it real strong. I don't want to get schwacked. I'm not going to drink it to get schwacked. I drink it because I like it and it's
Yeah.
refreshing, and it does make you feel a little happy. But listen to this: my blood work. I started drinking limoncello every day about 4 years ago, right?
Uh,
I went and had my blood work done. He said to me, Velma, I don't know what you're doing, but do you know your blood work is better today than it was 4 years ago? 4 years ago, when you're 82, let me tell you, to get your blood work better at 82 than it was when you were 78 is awesome. And I said to him, you're not going to believe it, but it's my limoncello. I'm almost
So
sure.
wait a minute. Not only do we have limoncello as a aperitif and a nice yummy thing to sip during a hot day or after dinner, but this is also a health remedy.
It's a
We've got
health remedy. But
we've
listen,
got
let me tell
stuff
you
like
why. Let me tell you why. First of all, I don't use any sugar in it. I use monk fruit, which in itself has healing properties
you use
and very
what?
healthy.
What is it?
Monk fruit.
Oh
It's a
yeah, that's what we use.
monk
Yeah, we
fruit
love it. Yeah,
instead of sugar when I make it. So
yeah.
that alone. Then I use the grappa. So the grappa is vodka made from wine.
Mhm.
So this is a gluten free. Now, when you put, and I use the lemon skins, and when I put 13 lemon skins. I use three of the quart bottles of grappa in one batch, and I put 13 lemon skins, just the skins, and then one lemon for every bottle. So I use three of the juices in there too. I strain that, so it's also got the juice, not just the skin. Well, we all know how good lemon skins are for the oils, so yeah, I mean, I'm positive it's what's doing it. I mean, I'm the one that said it, not him, but I'm almost sure. I told him I'm right. I said, because that's when I really started making it regularly and drinking it every day. And I think it's my little tonic.
So
Yeah.
we've got Bubby's limoncello.
Yeah.
This is gonna go huge.
This is huge. Bobby's limoncello. I've tried to get Sammy to do it. I said, why don't we, nobody's making limoncello. And, I mean, no, he didn't want to do it. He's got his
Well,
own,
come on. All these rock stars have some booze, or all either
well,
selling
Sammy's got
tequila
him.
or
You
they're
know
selling.
that.
He
The
should be
Cabo
selling
Wabo.
Bubby's limoncello.
I know. I
I'm gonna
agree.
call Sammy. This
I
is
agree. Yeah,
ridiculous.
just would you get this going? And not only that, I did a tequila cello, which was really good. It was really good. I did it with tequila. But
Mm.
anyway, that's beside the point. But that was the little side thing. I want to get on to tell you how, you know, um, if I could, not if I could, what if I could? What
Yeah,
if I could? Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to tell you a little story,
Please do.
and I'm going to try to condense it. So just sit back and get your limoncello and enjoy this.
I've got
Okay,
all day.
you're going to like this. You're going to love this story. I loved it. So as you said, I came to Palm Desert when I was 22 years old, and there were only 1,300 people here. And I was married to one of the few deputy sheriffs or police officers in the Coachella Valley, because Coachella Valley was very small back then. 1,300 people. When we came into Palm Desert, there was a sign out there that said, Palm Desert, 1,327 people. I'll never forget the sign. That's exactly what it said. And we bought this little house over on the north side of Highway 111. And it was one of the few, we called it a project, they were little, they were all the same. They all looked alike. What do you call it? Track
Yeah,
homes.
yeah.
And so Bob works at the sheriff's department. We've got three kids, and everything is, we're normal middle class people. Well, when I'm 35 years old, he decides he's going to run off with another woman. And he leaves me with those three kids. He had gotten retired from the police department because he went up to Tahquitz Falls on a hunt for some kids and fell and crushed his kneecap. So they medically retired him. And so he now is like, just out in the world. Well, before he left, he had helped me get a little dress shop going on El Paseo. He and I were the ones that started the golf cart parade. He was the president of the JCs. He was a very handsome, oh my god, he was so good looking and charming, and the women were crazy about him, and then he could dance well besides, and they all were crazy about him. So he runs off with some woman, but he gets me going with this little dress shop first. It was not making any money, and I had not worked. I was 31 when he left, or 35. I was 35, he was 38, but I was 31 when I opened the first little shop. wasn't making any money yet. The street was, we just started it. We just, there, it was a place called Prickly Pear Square. And we had a few people that started right in there. So I was drawing $250 a month. That was all I was drawing. I had a leased car and I had no money, and he leaves. And I've got 3 kids. I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, you talk about scared. You talk about, you know, if you could, would you if you could, or could you? I mean, could you if you would? I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do, Gary. And I remember I got down on my knees. I knew that God was there. I'd been raised Catholic. I didn't have a close relationship with him, but I knew he was there. My mother taught us a real simple faith growing up. And I got down and I screamed at the top of my lungs. I said, "Help me!" And and I meant it, sobbing. I was scared to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you had a lot on your plate.
Yeah. So here I am, and I've got this little dress shop that the first year, just so you can kind of figure it out, the first year in volume, I did $78,000. The whole, now half of that has to go back to buy the merchandise. I had rent for the shop. I didn't, I mean, I worked in the red. I was working in the red. So this is kind of a lie. I don't think I'll go into the whole story, how I got there. I went off on a wild tangent after he left. What else could I do? My heart is broken. I love him like crazy and I'm scared to death. And so I just start boogieing around and going out. And to make a long story short, I ended up going to Las Vegas with this guy. And I won $8,000 on the crap table. Now, to me, $8,000 back in when I
Eight thousand
8,000 on the crap
dollars
table, on the crap table.
on the
And I came home and I fanned this money out to my kids. And they're
That
screaming,
is a
"Oh,
major heater, by the
oh,
way.
I
That's
mean,
like a major heater. $8,000.
well, this was back in the let's see, it would be the 70s, the late 70s or early,
Wow.
yeah.
I've played a lot
So,
of craps and I've never won.
well, you should. Well, I rolled those dice for 45 minutes
What?
without crapping out. 45 minutes. Everybody at
Woo.
the table won.
Now
Anyway,
the table gave you a standing ovation when
oh,
you were done.
we were all in each other's arms when I finally crapped out because everybody at the table was winning like crazy. And I look back now, and in all sincerity, I believe it's crazy to say this. I believe God was helping me. I didn't know what I was going to do at this point.
God loves Vegas. Why not?
That little $8,000, believe it or not, you should have seen what I did with it. The one thing I had in my favor, I had a really good head on my shoulders about business and money. And my mother used to always say to me, "You can make a nickel seem like a dime." And I can tell you that gift carried me through because at this point, I didn't know from one day to the next. I was in the house that we had to live in together. My payment was only $305 a month, but I didn't even have $305. I didn't know what I was going to do. The car I had to take it back. He left in October. Lease was up in February. I had no car. I had no credit. I've got these 3 kids. They were 14, 15, and 9. And I'm telling you, when I look back now, and you've got to watch my video, it's called Rags to Riches. It's on YouTube.
I will
And
post it. I was gonna steal it from YouTube and put it on my site. I'm gonna do that.
it's a 45-minute long video. It's a long video,
I'm doing
but
it.
it's my life story. It starts back when I was a kid, so you can see where I really came from because I did go from rags to riches. Talk about what if you could. Okay, so now here I am, and I don't have a car. And this woman comes into the shop. And I remember I have this little clothing store that's not making any money. And I don't know what I'm going to do. But she comes into my store and I'm talking to my friend Lila. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have a car. Woman says, "Why don't you buy my car?" And I go, "What kind of car you have?" She goes, "It's a Mercedes. It's only got 19,000 miles on it. It's 4 years old." And I go, "Oh God, I could never afford a Mercedes." And she goes, "Well, what could you afford?" I said, "I don't know. I mean, at the time I knew I couldn't afford anything, but I had to have something." She said, "Well, do you have any money to put down?" And I went, "No, I don't have any money." She said, "I'll tell you what." She said, "How much could you pay a month?" I said, "Maybe $200. She said, "Tell you what, you take my little car, you pay me $200 a month." Can you believe this happened, Scary? Listen to this. So now I go out to that car and I'm telling you, I fall in love with this little thing. It was a 1973, I think. I think it was a 73 little 2-door Mercedes. Cute. It had a nice back seat in it, but it was still a 2-door. A 280, it was a 280, I think, or 180. Anyway. And so now here I get this, and every month she'd come in to get the $200 and she'd buy something from me and give me the $200 check back.
Oh my
And
God.
she did this for several years, like about 3 years. And
I
then she,
love this
oh,
lady.
it's an amazing, what was her last name? God, I can't even think of her name. Elaine Patterson. Elaine Patterson. And I never saw her again after this. This is the thing. I still think she was an angel.
Mm.
So, and I tell you this story because this car has some significance in, if would you if you could, or what if you could. So I get this little Mercedes and I give her this $200. She comes to me after 3 years and says to me, do you think you could go to the bank and maybe get a $4,000 loan on the car and pay me off because I'm leaving town? So I go to Bank of America, and it was a small little town at the time, still small. And I begged this guy, I'd met him out in the bars, and I was out boogieing around and stuff. And so I talked him into giving me a loan, a $4,000 loan on this Mercedes. So, and it was really well worth it. So I give her the 4,000, she leaves, I never see her again.
Mm.
Every single year, I kept that car for 13 years. Every single year I went in the summertime when it was no business. I couldn't even feed my kids. I would go get $4,000 on that car every single summer for 13 years. And that car would pay for us to live, the kids and I, in that house. It was $300 a month because in the season I would try to pay the money back. I'd pay the bank back. And then in the summer I'd borrowed it again, or I could live. And that car was amazing. Now that
That's
wasn't,
amazing. You couldn't do that
oh
today.
no, you
That's
sure couldn't. But
amazing.
but the little Mercedes never lost. See, I told you the birds. There they go. They're precious little things. So they start talking even. But anyway, so now the Mercedes never lost value. When I traded it in 13 years later, I got the same thing on it. I paid that woman for it, $10,000 on a trade-in. Is that something? I love that story. But that's not even the best story. So now I've got this
You mean
8,000.
wait a sec. So we win $8,000 on the craps table, which is unheard
Yeah,
of. I mean
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
$8,000. And
8,000
then
bucks.
some lady walks in and says, "Yeah, you can just
Yeah,
take over my car
that's
and
right.
pay me money, and then I'm gonna buy $200 for the stuff."
Gary, that in itself is amazing to me that woman did
That's
that. I would
unbelievable.
love to see her today and thank her. And the same with Lou Brandy. Lou Brandy was the banker that took a chance on me. He took a chance on me. So now I've got this dress shop that isn't working, and I don't know what I'm going to do. But I talked this friend of mine. I was always a good talker, and a good salesperson. I could sell anybody anything. My husband used to say, "You could sell a gorilla a cage."
I think you could sell ice to Eskimos. Yeah.
So anyway, so I told to this girl, if I had the money, I would buy a shoe store. I'd open a shoe store in this town. This is what I say to her. And if I were, I would put it in that little shop right there. And I even picked out the shop and everything. So I talk her into doing it, this girlfriend of mine. And I say to her, and if you don't like it, I'll buy it from you. Well, I didn't even have the money, but I was talking. So anyway, but by this time I am getting a little bit more footing. And so she opens the little shoe store, 660 square feet. Now, you know where the Bank of America is now?
Mhm.
It's right there. Okay, it was right next door, right next door. And everything was on the west end or the east end of El Paseo. I mean,
Right.
everything was on the east end. Nothing was over on the west end like it is now. That was just, dirt fields. So I pick out this little suite. She opens it. She hates it. And that was when I had got the $8,000 in Vegas. See, I'm skipping ahead with you. So now I end up telling her that I'll buy this shoe store from her. And I go to the bank. Now I go to the bank. This is where Lou Brandy comes in. And remember the little house now that I'm living in that when Bob left, the only thing I got from him was this little house. We'd only paid $17,000 for it back in the day. And when he left, it had $25,000 equity on it in it. So which means I owed him on the divorce papers. If I got married again or I sold the house, I owed him $12,500. So I had a little equity in this house. So I go to the bank with Lou Brandy And I go to one bank, first of all, it's security. And he says to me, I'll never forget it. I go in trying to I want to get money to buy this little shoe store. It's only $15,000 from this woman. And he says to me, there's no way you could ever pay this loan back. He looks at my book and he goes, you're digging a pit for yourself. You're never going to get out of. I want to tell you, I weaseled out of that bank, but I didn't give up. I couldn't give up. I had to do something. I had to,
Well, he was Mr. Inspirational Positive,
horrible,
wasn't he?
horrible. And years later, he saw me and he said to me, you're doing all right, aren't you? And I went, yeah, I really. But anyway, so I head over to Bank of America, Lou Brandy, and I'll never forget it. His glasses are down like this, and he's looking at me, and he's right like this. And I think, oh, he's not going to give it to me either. And I'm leaving, and as I leave, he taps me on the shoulder, and he said, you did real good. And then he calls me, and he tells me he's going to give me $15,000 on my house. And he says to me, I'm sticking my neck out for you. You better not let me down. And he shakes his finger. This is in the old days, the bankers. And I go, I promise, Lou, I promise I won't let you down. I won't let you down. So Lou gives me $15,000 on the house, and I end up buying this little shoe store. And I end up letting the dress shop go. It never did make it. But the shoe store, 660 square feet, I start working this little sucker. I have 200 pair of shoes, 200 pair of shoes. Now, to give you some idea, when I got rid of that shoe store, I had 6,000 pair of shoes in it. I mean, you've got to have bait in the water to catch fish, right?
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.
I had 200 pair of shoes. So the thing is, oh God, nobody will ever know what I went through. I struggled. You talk about getting up, dressing up, and showing up. I mean, nobody coming in, and I mean, I can remember going 10 days without a sale. I mean, I'm on El Paseo. I'm on El Paseo with this little podunk, shoe store.
Well, people don't know this. Most people don't know this about the desert, but in that time period, basically we would shoot a cannon
down the street,
down El Paseo from May to October.
Yep.
Basically, you could run cattle down the street. It wouldn't matter because no one was here in the summer.
That's what it was like. Summer. And I'm trying to make a living. I got kids at home. And I'm telling you, Gary, nobody will ever know. I mean, I had one really good trait that came down from my alcoholic dad, who ended up a street person, by the way. He died in the streets when he was 51. But the one thing he left us, he was a professional boxer. And he holds the record today for being knocked down the most times in a professional fight and getting up again. And no one will ever beat him because now they stopped the fight. Nobody will ever take that record away from him. He's got
That's a
it.
pretty incredible record.
It's an incredible record. And but I have to tell you, that was what kept me alive. Anybody in their right mind would have quit. I mean, I went for years, literally years. And that house, I want to talk about this house. I lived in that house for 30 years and I refinanced it 8 times. And every time I got $15,000, the same amount. Every time it
And you
would
went
go
to the
up.
same guy at Bank of America.
Yeah, until he disappeared. He finally died. And oh, I wish I could have. I wanted to hug that guy. I mean, he treated me, he gave me a chance. Lou Brandy gave me a chance. And I never did let him down either. I never did. I paid him back. But the thing was, all those years in that little house, 15,000, every time it would go up a little in value, I'd go get another loan. It was like my child support. I was awarded $300 a month. $300 for 3 kids, which was nothing. I got one time $300. That was it. And now you say to me, why didn't I go get him in court? Right? Because he was a retired deputy and he had a retirement pay and the whole works, right? So I got to tell you this story. So here I am, and my kids are young, and I'm crying, and I'm saying, I'm going to sue your dad. I'm going to take him to court. I'm going to have his ass thrown in jail. And they're all crying. All three of them, they're crying and going, please, Mom, please don't hurt Dad. Please don't hurt Dad. And I'm saying, what about me? And they're crying, please, Mom. So I hung my head and I said, all right, I won't hurt him. And I made a decision at that moment that I was not going to hurt their dad. It was for them. And I'm going to tell you, one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, right there. I decided not to hurt their dad. And that's where God came in and helped me for doing that. I knew it was the right thing. You see women today, they want to destroy men because they're divorced from them, and they do destroy them. It's awful. And I
Well,
tell them,
society in general now wants to destroy men with
this is so true,
toxic
Gary.
masculinity and all this other crap.
It's
Yeah.
so true.
So yeah, society is trying to get rid of men anyways. But
But the best thing I ever did was make that decision
now,
for
did
my kids.
they seem to have liked their dad? Did they at least go spend time with him?
Let me tell you, Bob was a very personable. He and I ended up such good friends. I mean, I loved him like a brother when it was over. I loved him in my heart all my life. I mean, that was the love of my life. I mean, I was crazy about him. He broke my heart. He broke my heart. But you know what I did is I put up a facade and I went on with life. It was all I could do. And I accepted the women he brought. Every time we had a family function, he would parade a woman through the house, a different one with blonde with big boobs. And one day, as my boys, they loved him. My oldest son was very mad at him, very indignant, and he finally told him, we're sick of you bringing these women to our home. If you got one woman, you can bring her, but we're tired. He finally, as the boys grew up, they got real firm with him. And in the end, he ended up getting married. And interestingly, well, I got to back up because I got to tell you the story about how I got where I'm at. I'm at Ironwood Country Club. And I had this dream back in the day when they first start building Ironwood.
But you're in Ironwood Country Club now?
Ironwood Country Club. Okay. And they're starting to build up here. Now, remember, I'm here when there's nothing. And so I'm watching all this.
Beautiful for anyone who doesn't know the desert. Ironwood Country Club sits in this cove in this beautiful
at the foot of the hill,
alluvium fan kind of cove.
Yeah,
the most incredible mountain views and
yep.
down valley views,
Yep.
and it's a massive development. I mean, you've got everything from one bedroom little places all the way up to mansions.
Yep. Multi-million-dollar
Ironwood Country Club's a spectacular place.
It really is,
and the location's irreplaceable.
Yep, the club above the rest. And so to me, this was my dream. Now, here I can't even make my $300 payment, but in my heart, I'm going, I want to live up there. I want to live up there so bad one day. This was my dream, right? And I want to live on a golf course. I want to be on a golf course. I want to have a golf cart. I have all these little dreams. So here I am working this little shoe store, and I worked this little sucker 660 square feet. And I began to kind of max it out, like how much volume can you do in 660 square feet? Well, my kids now are getting bigger and they're getting wiser. And my one son, oh my God, he really came alongside of me, almost like took his dad's place when his dad left. He was only 15, but They came alongside of me, my kids, all three of them. And he comes to me one day and goes, Mom, you got to move. You can't stay in this shop because you've maxed it out. You can't do any more here than what you're doing. And I said, I don't want to move. I'm always just, give me something to do and I will max it out. I'll just keep doing it till you tell me to stop. So he gets me by the hand and he walks me down the street and he goes, look at this shop right here. This is it was like 200 or 2000 square feet or maybe 2,500. So anyway, to make a long story short, he gets me to move down the street. And I ended up, it was crazy what happened. It was like little by little, I became the most popular shop on El Paseo. There was no doubt about it. I was swamped. I was like,
what was the name of the shoe store?
well, I had Cactus Flower shoes,
Oh,
first of all,
yeah.
and I had Hagar shoes for men. I had two. I had those two. And the Cactus Flower shoes was so popular. It wasn't high end. The shoes were around $100. And I retired 10 years ago. So now the shop is still there, only it's called Sonia's now. And she's cut it down in half. She doesn't have it as big as I did. But so now remember this struggle that I had gone through and how every year $4,000 from the bank and every year $15,000 I could get on whatever I could get on my house.
Mhm.
And so little by little by little, you talk about amassed little by little one day. And so now I decide I'm going to try to get a house up at Ironwood Country Club, one of those little 2-bedroom, 2-bath ones, only 1,100 square feet. And so to make a long story short, I actually hit 5 out of 6 on the doggone lottery. The lottery was just come out, and I only had to put 20,000 down on the house here. And I got it for $100,000. It was $100,000, and because everything had dropped down. I don't know what year it was. I was 52, so it's been anyway. And so I come up here and I tell him I can only spend $100,000. That's all I have because I knew what I wanted to plan my retirement. I was a woman alone and I didn't want to do anything stupid. And, so the guy lets me to get the house for $100,000 and I give him 20,000 down. And my payment was under $1,000 a month. Anyway, and I'm at Ironwood Country Club. I'm telling you, I sat out on that patio and I just bawled. I thought, my God, I made it. So now one day, here I am. I'm driving down El Paseo and I'm headed up to Ironwood Country Club and I've got this ring on my finger. I'll tell you another way how I got it one day. And I'm driving in a brand new Mercedes. I got a brand new 300 now and I'm driving down the street and all of a sudden this revelation and I went, oh my God, I made it. Alone in this Mercedes and I'm going, oh my God, I made it. I did it. I did it. I literally did it. I mean, what if you could? I did it. I climbed that doggone ladder, Gary, and I'm telling you, it was like a rope ladder.
It was more like one of those fake ladders at the amusement park that you're never going to be able to make it up, right?
Oh my God. I mean, when I think about it, and if I would have known then what I know now, I would have never tried to do what I did. Because even when that banker said to me, the other words he gave me were, there's no way you'll ever make it in business. The odds are so against you. I mean, and I thought, I know I'm there, but I mean, I did. And so years later, he did see me and he knew I was really doing well by this time, I mean, I went right to the top. I went right to the top, Gary, with no working capital, no husband, no child support. And one day my brother, Sammy, says to me, Velma, you are really a success story. And I go, me? What about you? And he goes, yeah, but he goes, most women in your position would have gone and got welfare. They would have never been, what you did with no help? He went, no, you're a real success story. And I only tell you this because I want people to be encouraged. You don't have, I had a high school education. I never worked for anybody in a retail store. I never even worked for anybody. And I go to buy one. When I go to that shoe store, I remember the people would come in and they would say words to me. I'm trying to fake it, right? Because I'm a good salesman. Right. And I'm trying to sell one of these 200 pair of shoes I got. And they say, my metatarsal hurts. And I'm thinking, I wonder what a metatarsal is. And of course, we didn't have Google, I don't know nothing. They know everything more than I know. And so
Right.
I get this one shoe company. Oh, God bless them. Another people that gave me a chance in business. They were called the Magdesian brothers. They were Armenian, and the family, and I one day I'm ordering my shoes and they really treat me nice. So I say to the sales rep, I said, Joe, could I pick your brain? And he said, sure. What do you need? I said, I don't know anything about shoes. And he goes, no kidding. He goes, no kidding. He said, you should have seen us down at the factory. We're going, look at how this woman orders, but she's selling them, she's selling. So they shipped me the shoes. They gave me credit. They were so kind to me. When I look back, there were certain people in business that were willing to trust you, and I owed Art Magdesian at one point $50,000. And he said to me, Velma, I never thought you'd pay me back. I never did. And I paid him back. I got him. I worked it. I worked, he said, I'm going to take a chance on you. I'm going to ship these shoes to you, but you better not. The same thing like Lou Brandy. I never let him down. I paid him back. But anyway, I want people to be encouraged because it can be done. And I think
Well, that's
it's,
see, that's the whole thing, the premise about I had a different podcast called Grief Pie, like I told you, about,
yes,
two guys sharing grief one bite at a time about men who've lost a spouse to cancer. And it was sad. It was tough on people. So when I wanted to do something else, I just wanted something so uplifting and inspirational. And when
yeah,
I was doing coaching, I'd always ask people, all right, well, why are you doing this? What's your end game? What do you want out of all this? Because to do it right, it's not going to be easy, right? It's work. And so
that's
they would
right.
tell me this and that, but I can't do this. And I said, well, what if you could?
But if you could,
Right. And see, you're a what if you could'er
I am.
because you never sat back. I'm sure you did. I'm sure you had those lonely moments where you said, I can't
Oh,
do this anymore, right? But I mean,
oh,
on the
you'll never
whole,
know.
you were always like, all right, Velma, like you said, I'm going to get up, I'm going to dress up,
Dress
I'm going
up
to
and I'm
show
going to
up,
show up.
and I'm going to
Yep,
do this shit.
yep,
I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to
yeah,
go in and get that loan. I'm going to go talk this guy.
yeah.
I'm going to get these shoes. I'm going to sell this stuff. I'm going to
Somehow,
live in Ironwood. I mean,
somehow, I'm
you
going to
were
do this.
always, what
Somehow,
if I
yeah,
could? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
It
let
was
me
amazing.
ask you something about your inspirational things that you've written down forever and sharing them with your family and sharing them with your friends and stuff. I have found you to be a very spiritual, we could say religious person. There's nothing wrong with saying religious
No,
person. I mean, I don't
it's
know
not
why
religion,
people
though.
think,
It's
but
not religion.
you do say, I don't want things to be too preachy or to come off
Mhm.
as preachy. And
They
I
run from
love
it.
that.
Yeah.
I respect that because it's sad to say, but people will close off if they
They
think you're
will.
preaching to
Oh,
them.
they do.
Right. So
Sure.
for
Yeah.
everyone to miss these messages, it's just like my wife is in recovery for 21 years, right?
God
So when I
bless it.
met her, I didn't have a clue about AA. Now I know everything about AA,
Thank God for AA, huh?
right? And we have a bunch of these devotional books and these, day by day books laying around. And I think they're the greatest thing,
They
that
are. They
you've
are.
done. So
Gary, my heart, I'm not religious, but I am a fanatic about Jesus, and he's in my heart. Jesus is in my heart, and everything I do, I acknowledge God. Now, I did not start out with that. As I told you, I got down on my knees and yelled, help me. That was the beginning. That was just the beginning. But it was, so when I was 35, Bob left. When I was 41, I asked Jesus to come into my heart, and I was still struggling. I struggled for 10 years with that shop. I was in business for 10 years before I ever knew if I was making it. I really thought I was pushing money around. I was like, I was pairing, just pushing money around and making it work. And then one day it took off. But for those first 10 years, so 6 years after Bob left, my girlfriend came to my house, and her and I, we boogied around. And like I told you, I did that because my heart was so broken. I was out there trying to, I don't know, ease my heart, looking for love in all the wrong places. But
yep.
anyway, and she comes to my house one day and she says, I'd gone to high school with her, and she walked in and she looked really pretty. She'd moved away to Montana, came back to visit me, and she walks in and I think, gosh, she looks really pretty. And she starts crying. She says to me, Bill, I want you to sit down. She goes, we've been together all our life. And, you and I, we went to Catholic church together. And I know you believe in God, but you have to do this. You have to make Jesus your Lord. And I go, okay, I'll do it. I mean, I'm crying because she's crying, I'll do it. And so she has me pray what they call the sinner's prayer, you know. Okay, I'll pray it. So I pray the sinner's prayer with her, and then I just pop right up and say, "All right, you want to go have cocktails now?" I mean, nothing changed, nothing. I did it, and and then
Praise the Lord, pass the
pass
limoncello.
the glass of limoncello. And so, but I did it, and then she leaves, and after she goes, it was like it was for me. It began to the seed took root, and I started like, I don't feel like going out for cocktails anymore. I don't want to. I just didn't want to do the same things anymore, and I slowly began to she'd forgot her Bible at my house, and it was a living Bible, which is a real, like a kindergarten beginner, but it's really good. And I decided it's summer at the shoe store. I'm going to read that thing while I'm here. And I read it from beginning to end. I ended up reading it I read different versions every time, but I read it 13 times from beginning to end. And by the time I was done, I was like, I it's to me, it's my life now. So as you know, I'm a chaplain now. I'm an ordained minister. I mean, I still have a lot of fun in life. I just do. But everything goes back to God, everything for me. Yeah. So I am definitely not religious, because religion is what killed Jesus. Religious people can be very judgmental and, but I am definitely, Jesus is in my heart, and I'm a Christian. And so I mean, that to me, everything in my life starts off with that.
Is
And
there is there a local church that you go to?
I go up to this little tiny church. I've been to several different ones over the years. I've been a Christian now for 41 years. I came at 41, and I've been 41 now, 41 years. So I wandered around in the desert for 40 years like the Jews did. That's what I tell everybody. I wandered around for 40 years without the Lord. And then I've been out here now for 41 years. And I go to it's right here on the corner of Fred Waring and Portola. It's
Oh
called
yeah.
Valley
Oh
Christian
yeah.
Assembly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's a
That's where
little
we vote.
church. Is Yeah, very good. And that so it's a little church, and I just love it. And so
Yeah.
that's where I go. I did go to Southwest, the big church.
Yep.
I went there for 10 years, but they closed during COVID. And I'm a non-vaxxer, and I didn't believe that we needed to, stay in our house. I was one of them. And so I wanted to go to church, and the only church I found was Little Valley Christian. They had it out in their parking lot, and so I just started going there because there was nowhere else to go. And when everything opened up, I said, you know what? I like this church. I'm staying
I'm
here. So
staying. And
yeah,
isn't it horrible that they closed the schools and the churches, but they left
the
open the
bars.
marijuana
Yeah,
stores,
yeah,
the
yeah,
liquor
yeah,
stores,
yeah, yeah,
Walmart, Home Depot, and then they chased down anybody who wanted to do have services and things like that.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
so evil. It's so wicked bad.
It
I'm
was
I'm
wicked.
not
It
very
was.
religious at all, but I do have a deep spirituality to me. And I remember where it kind of came to me is on Highway 74. There's the two big churches side by side on Highway
Yep.
74. You know the
Yep.
ones I'm talking
Yep.
about, right?
I do. Yeah.
One of them, I don't even know the names of the churches. I don't
Yeah.
even know
Yeah.
the name of this
St.
place, but
Margaret's is one of them. I know that. I don't
yeah,
know what.
so
Yeah.
I used to live in the mobile home park on right underneath
Yeah.
Cape
Yeah.
Norm
I
on the
know where
top
it is.
of Highway
Yeah.
74.
Yeah. Indian Wells, or the Indian Creek
Something
mobile
like
home
that.
park.
I don't
Yeah.
remember it now. It was
Yeah.
in 1984. And I was in a real bad place in my head, right? And they have a little like a little chapel in the
Chapel.
parking lot.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah. I do. I know right
Yeah,
where it is.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
now it's real fancy because I went
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
little while ago, but
Yeah.
it's real fancy. But it was just basically just a garage. It was like a carport.
Yeah.
I was driving home one night and I just was in just such a bad place and I saw it and I pulled in there and I got on my knees in front of
Oh.
the altar there, and I just started crying, and
Oh.
talking, and just say, God, I cannot be this
Uh,
screwed up. I'm
yeah.
not this screwed up of a person. I mean, my life is just bad, right? So So I would stop by regularly, like every night. In the restaurant I worked at,
Oh,
Wally's Desert Turtle, they'd have events and they'd leave flowers. So I'd take the flowers and drop them off there on
oh,
my way home. Well, sure enough, uh, not too much later, that was October of 2000 of that was October. I remember how it happened. That was October of 1984. I just moved back from Hawaii. I didn't want to, but I forced myself to come out. February of 1985, I met my wife, who changed my entire life. I walked into a travel
oh,
agency and I saw April, and I just said, "That's the woman I'm going to marry." She was
praise the
18, I
Lord.
was 20, and we were together for 28 years until she died of cancer.
Oh, that's how that was
Yeah,
hard.
so that little chapel going in there,
Mm,
that was, that's when I gave myself over and just said, "Listen, I can't do this on
yeah,
my
well,
own."
that's the thing. When you find out what God can do for you, and so many times we find him in our weakness, he's made strong. There's a scripture that says that in your weakness, I'm made strong. And so that's what happened to me too, in that weakness of Bob leaving me and trying to take care of my kids. And, yeah, there was nowhere else for me to go but to him. And I did go. And then the more you learn, the more you realize, you go, what a bozo that you don't take advantage of this. Oh, Gary, it's so real. There are over 6,000 promises in the Bible. 6,000. How many do you know? And yet there's a word in there that says, bring me in remembrance of my word. Now, how are you going to bring him in remembrance of what he promises if you don't know what it is? He tells you, you have to tell him, this is what you said, God. You promised to me that I will be like a tree planted by the water. You promised me, Lord, that I will have everything I need. You promised me, Lord, that no weapon formed against me will prosper. You promised me, Lord, that all the days of my life I will walk in divine health. I mean, all those promises. And he tells us to remind him of them. It's like if your parents left you an inheritance and they said, but you got to go up 111 and you got to turn north, south, or you got to turn west and you got to go towards Palm Springs and you got to go to that little bank over there. You got to go in and get your money. You go, well, I don't want to go that way. I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to turn right and go towards India. Well, you're not going to get what you have coming. And so this is the same thing with God's word. The more, the one nice thing about getting old is that you get smarter and you
You know,
actually
the
get,
really nice thing about getting old is that you get old, because April
yeah,
died
this
at
is,
46.
I
So
mean,
she did not get old. And when I
no.
hear people complain, like my mom is currently,
How
"I'm
old is
too
she?
old." I'm like, "You're never too old."
How
That
old
is a
is your mom?
gift.
She's probably my
88.
age.
My mom's
Oh,
88.
God bless her. Is she
Yeah.
still able?
No, well, yeah, she's way too able. I'm like, "Mom, you don't understand something.
She's able.
Here's the deal for you, all right? You keep saying you want to go because you're tired and you're bored. All right. But here's the deal. She was a hostess at Wally's for 35 years. She
What was her
worked
name? Don't I know her?
Yvonne Scott. She was a hostess there for 35 years. And if you ever went into Wally's, you saw my mom. You couldn't help it. But
Yvonne.
she had a purpose. She ran that restaurant. She got up and I go, when COVID happened and they closed down, she no longer has a purpose. So I'm like, "Mom, you don't understand.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
88,
yeah,
but you're totally healthy. You're going to
yeah.
live another 10 years. So you better figure this out, right?
Well,
You
you do
better
need
get
a
a
purpose.
hobby or
You
a
do need a
boyfriend.
purpose. There's
You,
no doubt about
you
that.
better do something, because
But there's so
you,
much to do.
well, that's just it.
Send her
See,
to headquarters with us. We'll get her
you
busy.
get up and do your stuff, right? And since
Oh, I'm
she's
so
lost
sorry.
Wally's,
Oh,
she
God.
ran the thing, right? She is sharp as a tack. Do not tell her that you're going to call her 3 Thursdays from today at
You'll
1:27.
remember it.
Because if you do not call her 3 Thursdays
Yeah,
from
yeah,
today at
yeah, yeah.
1:27,
Praise God. Well,
no, so
she needs to
she's
come
got,
to.
and she's healthy as a horse. She's got she's got all her teeth. I'm like, "Ma, you just need a purpose,
Wow.
right?" And so religion gives people a purpose.
Oh, it
Your
sure does.
writing gives people a purpose. Having something to work for, to love,
You're
whether it's
so
a
right,
dog,
Gary.
right? I work with a lot of people. deal with a lot of people who lose pets, right? That's one of the
Oh yeah.
grieving things that I do is pets. And I'll tell you, people who lose a pet at 18, 20 years
Oh,
in,
I know.
it's
I know.
wicked bad.
I know. Gary, believe me,
I've seen people whose husband have died that they're not as in pain as when their
you're
pet
so
died.
right. You're so right. But let me tell you something, because this is something I have learned. You have to replace things right away. My Nala died, and the very next day I went and got Guido. Not because I was disloyal to Nala, but why would I want to just sit around crying about Nala? I mean, I love Nala with all my heart. I cried over her, but the next day I got up and I went over to the pet store and I got Guido. And you know what? It takes the sting out. It takes the stinger out when you do that.
Yeah. And
It's like getting
what's
right.
interesting about what you said is, and when I work with people who are grieving and who, through my last podcast, I had so many people calling me to share, hey, you guys are sharing so much and I want to share. And the thing is that people have a challenge getting over is what you said. It's like I sometimes feel like if I move on, I am dishonoring that person,
That's
or
what they
that
feel. That's what
I'm
they feel.
forgetting that person, right? Or for some
Yeah.
reason I'm not
Yeah.
honoring their, and it's like, no, 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 no,
No,
no.
it's not true. Yeah. You're so
You will
right.
always love them, you will always honor
Yeah,
them,
and I know. Look at me, how long
but
I've
you
talked. See, I
still
told you to
need
give
to
me the
move
mic.
on as
You
far
do.
as your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah,
We
this is
haven't
what you
even
do.
covered
no
half the
longer.
Oh,
stuff
So
I
you're not
wanted
even.
to
I
cover yet.
exactly
haven't
what you said is
You're
so
even.
on a
true.
roll.
Yeah,
Don't
I
stop
have.
now.
Gary, I
You're
have
on a
finding
roll.
after all
I
those
have to
years,
tell you, don't
which is
get me
another
going
whole
on
story I'm not
politics
going to
though,
go
because
into. But
that's
I
No,
stayed
no, no.
single
We
for
can't
24
we can't
years,
even
I'm
touch
a
politics.
and
warrior.
I
I'm a
and I was
real
done. I
But
warrior.
said,
here's the
I don't want to
challenge, and
date
here's what's
anymore.
really
I'm done
sad,
with
right?
men.
You
I
and I
balanced out
are on
in
the
life. I
same
didn't have anxiety
wavelength
anymore.
on
I had
so
no more
much,
fears. I had
especially
made it in
politics.
business. I
Yeah,
moved
yeah.
to Ironwood
So
Country Club,
here's
and I
what's
was
so
finished
sad.
with dating. I
We
thought, men
could,
just brought
and
pain
we've
into my
already
life. I'm
have
done with them.
had
I made it by myself.
this
I don't even.
beautiful
Well,
podcast.
doggone
You've
if
got
God
so
didn't
much
send
to
me
share, so much
somebody
inspiration,
from
so
my
much beauty
teenage years,
of what we've
somebody I
talked
went to
about,
high
right?
school with,
God
and his
forbid
wife and I were
we
best
mentioned
friends,
any
and I was the
politics.
maid of honor at their
This
wedding,
podcast would be
and she died.
completely shunned, and
And I
people would
loved him as a
miss
friend all my
all of
life.
the
He was one of my
goodness of
favorite
what
people.
you
So when I
said,
was
right?
You're right.
59,
You're
Isn't
right.
that
here
sad?
comes
I mean,
all
and
those
it's like, so
like
I've
you
had
talk
a
about
number of guests, and I've let them
I mean,
roll. I've
a
just let them
rescuer on
go,
a white
right? And
horse.
they've
Oh my
just been
God.
on fire and
And
stuff.
he comes into my
And at the
life,
end of the
and I had
podcast,
the
we covered a
desire
lot
of
of
my
stuff, but that
heart.
15 or
Finally,
20
this
minutes when they
marriage
were
with this
really
guy. Oh my
railing
God.
on Mr.
We
T,
fell in
right? About
love
how much they love
so.
him and stuff.
It was the
I go,
sweetest thing you've
I
ever seen.
go,
And he
I
lived
think
12 years right to the day,
we had
right to
everything
the day
going,
of when we
but
got married.
we're going to lose
He
a
died
bunch
12
of
years later.
people.
He's
Yeah,
At
not
that
people
sick.
quit
point,
watching.
He
Oh yeah,
had,
they
he
quit
ended up,
watching.
right? And they're
he
going to
was a
miss
military
all
man for
the
35
great
years,
stuff
and he
that
had
you
You're
mesothelioma
right.
in
and
You're
it's
his
so
right. You're right.
lungs.
sad. It's so
And
It is
sad.
he
because
was never
Gary,
sick with it.
politics are so
Apparently, he'd gotten
important
it
and
when he was
such a part of
18. He
life.
joined when
And
he was
when
18.
when
But
Christians
he
think
died
they
7
shouldn't get
months after we
involved in it,
found
they're
out he
wrong.
had it.
Because
But I'm
if
telling
we
you,
don't
those
make the
12
laws,
years, oh
evil
my
people are
God,
going
were the
to.
most
And so
beautiful years of my life.
it's
So
for
from
the good
59
people.
until
If the good
73,
people do
I had
nothing,
him. And then
bad
here I
people are
am
going to do it.
again.
So
Well,
I
back
do
to
believe
the
in it. I'm all right.
yes, and
I
I
know how to
raised
do
my
this, Scott. I
sons,
know how to
and
be
you've met
alone,
Chris. Chris is a
And
yeah.
great
I've
young
just
man.
gone
You
on with
haven't met
life.
Zaki,
I
but
No.
Zachary is in
definitely
the Air
grieved
Force.
over Phil. Oh my God,
He wanted to serve his
I
country
still, I'll
since he
still
was
have
a
days
little
where I could
kid,
cry.
and
It's
he
my
went
Phil,
right
but
into the
you
service.
just got to get on with it.
He is
I
an
can't stand it when I see people.
honorable
They've
young
been gone
man.
for
Matter
10
of
years
fact,
and you're
it's
still sitting
funny
around
because a
crying.
lot
Get
of the
on with it.
regiments,
You've
when
got to
he's
get up,
overseas
dress
and
up, and
stuff,
show up.
these guys will make it their
I just
mission to
got
try
up
to get
and
him to cuss.
started going again,
Zaki's never
and
cussed. He's never, I mean,
God
but
bless
like
them.
if he says, you're an asshole, he says, he might say butthole. That'd be like, he just
Yeah.
doesn't cuss. And
God bless him.
his mom didn't cuss, so he just doesn't cuss. And so it's so funny. He's just such an honorable, good person. And you met Chris. Christopher is such a,
Chris
but
is a doll.
he's a
Yeah.
dog. But April had zero interest in politics at all. She could care less. I'm a
That was your
rabid
that was your
political.
first wife?
That was
The
my
kid?
first wife.
Okay, April.
Yeah, that's Christopher's mom.
Mother.
And
Yeah.
that's, but I've always been a political animal. I mean, for as long as I can
I'm a
remember
warrior.
from forever, right? And I
Me
have
too.
very
Me
strong
too.
beliefs, conservative beliefs, right? And so but I raised them to be independent thinkers, right? I said, guys, this is what I believe and why. But that doesn't mean you have to believe it. right? And Zaki was very non-political forever until the last couple of years because he served under Obama, he served under Trump, and he served under the current whoever's running the country now.
Yeah, whoever it is.
We don't know, but whoever is. And so he has seen, he's like, Dad, I get it.
Mhm,
I didn't
mhm.
believe it at
Yeah.
first that politics mattered, but having served under three, and it just so happens that
Uh,
he's canine, so he works with the Secret Service. He's been
oh,
on Trump's detail. He's met Trump. He's been on Air Force One. He's been to Biden's
wow.
home. I mean, he has been on the inside, and he's like, Dad, I get it now. There's a
Praise
difference,
God. I
right?
know.
Now, I'm not going
Praise
to say
God.
which way he's leaning because
Well,
I
we
don't want to
know
get
which way
Zach in
he's
trouble,
leaning
right?
because
But I'm
Zach's a
just saying,
smart guy.
but I
Yeah.
raised, but that's how we raise the boys
Yeah.
is you.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care what you believe or how you believe it needs to get done, but my gosh, you better believe in something. And whatever you believe in, you better be passionate about it, but make sure you're on the right side of which way we're
Yeah.
going because it
Hmm.
matters.
I always say, make sure you're on God's side. You
Yeah.
look at those policies and you vote for the policies that best align with the biblical principles because that's what works in the end. And we know that it's the only thing that's ever worked for mankind in the end.
Yeah.
It may go for a while looking like it works, but it's all going to crash unless it aligns with what God wants for us. And
Well, I wish you would hurry
so,
up and I wish you would hurry up and crash.
and would
And
crash.
I wish you would hurry up and crash. And I hate to say that, but
No, it's going to. Don't
I'm
worry.
so frustrated with the manipulation
Oh, it's awful.
of the
We don't even know what
media,
to believe. You
social
don't
media.
even know
Yeah.
what to believe.
It's
Nobody tells the truth anymore.
nobody.
It's awful. And you know
And
who the father of lies is?
yeah,
50% of the people don't believe there's a devil. But let me tell you something. The father of lies is that enemy. And he's very real. And he loves it if you don't believe in him because then he can work in your life so easy.
yeah,
No, I'll tell you what, those lies and but you know what? Darkness can't be where there's light, and God's going to shine that light pretty soon. You just watch. There's
yeah.
something
Well,
about to happen, Gary.
I'm
There's something about to happen.
a big reader. I read in the morning. I read at night. I'll read at lunch. I love to read. Obviously, I got books
I
everywhere.
used to love to read.
I've picked this book up again for the
Man's search for
19th
what?
time. Man's Search for Meaning. And it's
Mm.
it's diabolically evil how many people are trying to still say that there wasn't a Holocaust. I mean,
Oh, it amazes me.
can you
How
believe
in the
that?
world? Yeah, but
You can
eh,
go visit them.
yeah,
They're
I
still
know, I know,
there,
I know, I know,
right?
I know. Isn't
You,
that
of
something? Isn't that just bizarre? They're trying to change our history. They're
course they
trying to
are.
change our history.
They're
And
trying to, yeah.
the Jewish people have been persecuted since the beginning of time. And this when I heard that they were attacked by Iran, I mean, I literally cry. I'm Italian, but you know what? I love the Jewish people. I have a heart for those Jewish people. And I mean, I just cry when I hear that little tiny country. Can't they just leave them alone? God gave them that land. But I'll tell you what, you listen to this. There's a scripture that says, I will bless those that bless Israel, and I will curse those that curse Israel. Don't think for one moment they're going to get by with it because they're not. Now, God, they have been under judgment, and the Holocaust was judgment. I hate to say it, but it was. And you know what? We're headed the same way if we don't watch it here in America. We're going to get that same kind of judgment. But that's God's people. And if you don't want to touch them because anybody who's ever gone after Israel in the end, they're out of here. You just look back. I mean, they never get anywhere, and it's sad for those people. But oh, I just
Well, it's a sin that we don't support them more.
oh,
And
I do.
they're our only allies in the whole region,
They're the
and we
best
treat them
ally.
like horrible.
Well, Trump
It's
didn't.
terrible. Yeah.
Trump treated them right, and see, that's when America quits treat. You know why America's been blessed? I will bless thee that bless ye. We have blessed ye. That's why we've been blessed. And as soon as we pull out, you can see the blessing lifting off of America because this regiment we have in there right now does not bless them. And so we have got to watch, we got to be careful. Anyway, don't see this is where you don't want to get me going, but
But
I want your 88 year
so
old
let
mother
me I
to come
what's
to
that?
I want your 88-year-old mother to come to headquarters. We'll put her to work.
Oh gosh. I would love for that to happen. Who
We
knows
have
what
fun
this
there too,
is.
we have fun.
I have to say something that we chatted about before we came on the recording. You were buying a racehorse or a
I
part of a
did,
racehorse?
Gary.
So what do you do? You search for the at the auctions and then you buy
No,
like a
no,
percentage?
I've joined a little club. It's a racehorse. I have the little app, and I go in and find out what's for sale. And I mean, and I'm just finishing it up. I don't go big into it. I do these little like half of a percent or something.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you buy these horses that are worth $1 million, and there is the potential when they run. I just got this one, and her name is Moonlit Courage,
Hmm.
and her parents both were champions, and I have a lot of hope for her. She is stabled here in Hammett, right here in Hammett, and she'll be
Now,
running. She's only
do you get to watch them race?
we can go. She's
That's
only
awesome.
2, and I just bought another one today, and it's a male, and I like him. He was a little more expensive for the same amount, but
Mhm.
his parents are really his odds are pretty good of him winning, and so then when they win,
This
everybody
is
gets a little check,
Well, I love the racehorses,
Me
and I
too.
love races,
Oh,
and
I do too.
watching them forever. And I don't think I've missed a Kentucky Derby in 50 years. I literally haven't missed watching the Kentucky
I,
Derby.
I
And we've had the most bizarre, the last like 4 Kentucky Derbies have been so bizarre. Like they took that one guy down. I mean, they hadn't pulled a racer, the winner, in like 100 years. They pulled him down. Another guy got bumped. So the last couple of years have been really weird. But my best friend Remo Malucci, another Italian.
oh, nice Italian
Oh
boy.
yeah, Remo Malucci. Yeah.
Meluch.
So Remo has, when we were like 17, we went to high school together. Like when we were 17, we used to go to Del Mar and
Love
Hollywood Park and stuff,
Delmar,
right?
my
Love Del
favorite.
Mar. And he just has a gift for picking
So do
horses.
I.
So,
I
well, we know you
handicap
know how to
those
play
suckers.
craps. That's
Listen, I handicap those suckers. And I was just telling Carrie, my little cousin, last night, her and I do this together. I said, I mean, and my eyes have gone amok. My eyes don't work real good. I can see, but not terrific. And it's real hard for me to do the handicapping now because I do it's a real detailed thing that I
Oh
do.
yeah, I
And that's
love
how
it.
I pick the winners. But I said, so she's going to have to, I'll tell her what to do. She'll have to do the handicapping. But I love
So,
horse racing.
so I've always wanted to buy a racehorse for
I'll send
Remo.
you the app.
But I need to be able to own the whole horse so I can
Oh,
name him, right? Because here's the deal:
you get to name them.
you get to name
You
him
get to name them. We
because
just,
here's the name of the horse, right? Ready?
okay.
Uncle Remo.
Uncle Emma, I
Uncle
like
Remo.
it.
So
Well,
now here,
yeah.
listen to this call
Okay.
coming down the stretch, right? It's Uncle Remo coming down the clubhouse turn. It's Uncle Remo by a nose. Can you
Okay.
hear Uncle
I
Remo?
love it. I
It's
love
the
it.
best. And
Well,
so I told him, one of these days, buddy, I'm going to come up with enough money. I'm going to buy a racehorse for you, and I'm going to name
but
him
those
Uncle.
those good ones are like they're 800,000, 900,000. You know that. I mean, they're
I
real
don't have nine hundred
expensive. I
thousand
know
dollars
you
to buy
don't.
a racehorse.
I know you don't. That's why I'm saying you should just buy a part of it. Now we just named our girl, our the one the Moonlit Courage, and see what you do. And that wasn't the name I picked. Her mother's name was Claire DeLu, which I love that name, Claire DeLu. So we get to turn in names, and usually they call them by the mares are called by their mother's name for 2 years. They use the mother's name, and the males use the dad's name for 2 years, and then all of the owners get to turn in names, and they pick like 8, and then we all get to vote on that 8, and then they pick 4, and you get to bet on. So we got to bet to vote on it, and I wanted her to be called the best of Claire DeLu was my name because I loved Claire DeLu. I thought that was a great name. But I do like Moonlit Courage. This is what won was Moonlit Courage. And in the end, that was one of my choices. So we just named her. So my other horse now, he hasn't been named yet. So he's called Paximilian is what his dad's name was. So he'll be called Paximilian for soon. We'll get to name him soon. He's a male. So I have
How
one female,
fun.
one male. I wanted
Yay.
a black horse. I'll send you the link though, because
You
you can
gotta
buy.
send me the link.
It's so
I
much
need an Uncle
fun.
Remo.
It's so
Before
much fun. I have so much
before I
fun doing this.
go, I need a racehorse called Uncle Remo.
Uncle Remo. Well, turn in the name. Maybe they'll accept it. You never
Yeah,
know.
it's a great name, Uncle
You
Rem.
never know. I kind of like it too. But
The
anyway,
reason
I'm
I
letting you
the
go. But
reason I came up with it, the reason I came up with it is because when we went to go visit to Long Island, to his family in Long Island, his little nephew Johnny, the whole time we was there, 800 times an hour, he'd say, Uncle Remo, where's my Uncle Remo?
Uncle Remo.
That's all I heard for a week was Uncle Remo.
And you're not Italian at all, huh? You
No,
seem
I
like
don't
you
know.
could
I'm
be.
Spanish. My dad's from Spain.
Is one of was his name what was his name, Sanchez? What, somebody in the family had
Sanchez.
Sanchez. See, I told Chris you should leave that in the middle when you're running for office. Chris Sanchez Scott. And he said, but that's not who I am. I said, yes, it is who you are. And today it behooves you to have that in the middle. You know,
I tried to tell April the same thing. I didn't find out till I
leave
was
it in the middle.
27 years old. And April, my dad told me, he said, "Hey, by the way, you should probably know, you're a Sanchez." And I'm like, "Awesome," because I hate the last name Scott. It's the stupidest name
No,
in the
I
world.
like it.
Sorry, anybody named Scott, I'm sorry, but I like Sanchez better.
Sanchez is, yeah, but you could put it in the middle,
Yeah,
and see
they hyphen.
if Chris is going to really go into politics, I
Yeah,
want him to put that in the middle. I just do. Don't you
yeah.
think I'm right?
I'll talk to him about it, especially in California, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
It
since it's
behooves anybody today to have a little black
in the
blood in them, to have a little Mexican blood in them.
Yeah.
It behooves
And
you.
the truth of the matter is his history is incredible. We have been in America. We founded New Mexico, our family, and we
Really?
have a grant there, a land grant, because our family got here in like 1512. That's how
Wow.
long our family's been in New Mexico. And
Wow.
his mother, his great grandmother was Mexican. His great
Scots?
grandfather was from Spain.
Or I mean Chris?
Um, and
You're
so
talking about Chris's
yeah,
family?
my dad was from Spain, and
He
his
needs
my
to. He needs
grandmother was from Mexico, and the thing is, we were there since the 1500s, and when it became New Mexico, and it became we were here before it was New Mexico, and so they designated in 1902, the United States government finally granted that area to our family, and
Wow.
it's 660,000 acres in New Mexico called the Atrisco Land Grant. We've got a
Jeez.
museum. We've got all this history that I missed out on because my dad changed his name. I don't know.
Oh
I never
my
met my grandfather, my
gosh.
grandmother. Because they disowned him. He has a huge
Wow.
family. And when he changed his name, they disowned him. They said, screw you if you don't want to.
Well, see, you don't look like a Sanchez, but Chris does. I
Right.
think
I
Chris,
look just like Chris and he looks just like me. It must
no,
be the lighting.
I mean, he looks more like a Sanchez.
Right? Yeah. Because
And
he's
that's
got
what
deep
I told him.
blood.
He put that in the middle.
Yeah, well,
I,
think about this. Think about this. His grand his great grandfather's from Spain. His great grandmother's from Mexico. Okay. His dad is has the same Spanish blood, and my mom's from Guatemala.
good God, see?
His mother was from Colombia. So I mean, he's got more
April
Latin and
was from
Spanish blood.
April. April
Yeah,
was,
she
no,
was.
see,
Yeah.
he should claim that. My gosh.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. He should know Spanish. But in any case, so
Well,
I've
maybe.
got another question for you. I only had three, so this is my
Okay. Okay.
and then we'll wrap up because you've
All
taken so
right.
much of your time. So you mentioned that your brother is Sammy Hagar, the Red
Right.
Rocker. Everyone knows him. But do you have other siblings that are
I
still
do.
around that you're close with?
There were four of us, and we did lose my oldest brother 2 years ago. But my oldest brother was actually 2 years younger than me. It, my sister and I were the oldest. My sister was 14 months older than me. She's an author too, and
Okay.
she wrote a book called Blinds, Patches, and Twine, which is a family history book.
Mhm.
And and Sammy's got 3 books out, or 2 books, 2 or 3, and so we're all authors. And
Wow.
so one of the first questions you asked me back at the very beginning, did I ever think I was going to be an author? When I was in high school, I had a real potential for writing. I mean, I used to love to write. We had this one teacher every Friday. We came into the room, and he would have one sentence on the chalkboard. He'd write one sentence up there, and it would be a dumb, like one of the sentences I remember was, go over to that rock, Fortunato, and we had to write an essay with that line.
Cool.
So he would give us one line, and I was excellent at that. He used to have me read my essays all the time in front of the class. So with that, the way I began to write my message every day was one line. I will hear one line, like your line, what if you could? I could write a great blog on that. See, and I'm probably going to do that, by the way, and I'll give you credit. So I just need
Don't
one
give me
line.
credit, but you could link it to my site, but
I
it's
just
all yours.
I'm going to put this on my. When you get this done, you send it to me because I'm going to put it on my YouTube also. I'll put it up.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I'll get it up
Please.
there. But anyway, so that one line thing in all those years. So yes, in a way, I've always loved to write. I've written and I write poetry for everybody. I have a poem for everybody in my life on their birthday. In fact, you know what? We're going to end this poem with me reading my poem I wrote for Sammy Hagar.
I love it.
It is so good.
I
I
love it.
mean, my favorite poem, I've written poems for everybody, but my favorite one of all is the one that I've written for my brother. Wait till you hear it. I hope I can find the doggone thing. I should have known ahead I was going to do this. Talk about something you love, because I have to find it. It's so good. So every single here, I'm going to be in here. Every single birthday, every friend in my life. I mean, I could just, if you saw how many poems I have written here, oh my God. I mean, I have probably written 100 poems for everyone. And I'm real proud of my poems. And I didn't even know that I was a poet until I was probably maybe 75. I started doing this stuff so late in life. I mean, imagine my books. I didn't even publish one book until 73, another one at 80. I mean, is that wild?
That is incredibly wonderful. God, I love that.
But you know about Sammy and what he stands for, right? So you'll appreciate this poem because it really nails him. And they put it in his book. I actually got a spot in one of his books with my poem because it's so good. But see what I'm doing right now is I'm actually going through poems I've written to find my.
What did Sammy write a book about? An autobiography?
Yeah, it's horrible. He tells you everything he ever did, and it's not good. And then
I'm gonna have to get that book.
it's called Red, and it's he gives it all.
Is it
He,
called
he
Red Rocker?
it's called Red. It's just called
Red.
Red, I think. And he tells you, oh my gosh, everything. He also has a cookbook. We're real into cooking. Remember, we're Italian, and our grandfather was a chef. And okay, here it is. You're gonna love this. This is really
Okay.
good. I'm so proud.
Now make sure we can hear it. Make sure you're
You,
facing the microphone
boy,
so we
aren't
can
you?
hear it.
You can always hear me. I mean,
Well,
I'm
I just
okay.
want to be sure.
My little bro Sam outdid them all as he picked and sang and heard his call. He started at the bottom, a family without class. They said he'd never make it, he'd fall on his ass. Everyone said, cut your hair and go to work, but he always knew around the corner success did lurk. He struggled as he sang his way to the top with charisma and style that included his mop. Born with hair that was a wild mass of frizz, it was blonde and massive and uniquely his. He chose to wear red and screamed his way to the top, running and jumping while shaking his mop. He partied like a beach bum and stuck with his style, treating his fans like family all the while. That my Guido. Everyone loved
That's
him as they flocked
bad
to his
timing for the
show.
doggy.
Guido, you know what? You hush. Oh, everyone loved him as they flocked to his show, bound and determined where he went, they would go. The redheads were formed and always stuck together, forming an amazing friendship through all kinds of weather. They supported each other and adored their king, and at the Cabo Wabo they would dance and sing. They knew all of his songs and sang them out loud, as their guy in red always made them proud. The years have flown by, but Sam never quit. What he has to give, he gives every bit. He has remained young, and his hair is still a mass. And finally, the name Hagar has tremendous class. His sister is proud and loves him from her heart, and she always has right from the start. Isn't
Ah,
that good?
That is really good. I would love to be able to post that. Can we post? Have you posted that anywhere so we can
Oh, yeah, I
post
post it
that?
all the time. I'll send it over to you to make sure you get it.
Send
I'm
it to
so
me and I'll
proud of
put it
that.
on the podcast for sure. That's awesome.
I'm gonna do it. I'll send it over, and everybody in my life gets a poem, and
Oh,
some of
that's
them are better than
awesome.
others. That Guido,
So
but
are you guys are you big sister or little sister?
I'm the second one in. My sister's number one. I'm number two. The bro that died is number three, and Sammy's the baby.
So he's your little brother.
My little brother, 5 years younger.
Ah,
He's pretty doggone. He's not any young. I mean, he's no spring chicken. That I'm sure it's probably the. Oh, my dog. See that? Well, at least he waited a while to do
I
it.
know.
So, all right, we're gonna go. I'm gonna send this to you, but I want to tell you, Gary, you are charming. You have a delightful way about you, and I pray a special blessing, a favor on you. Oh, Guido, Guido, Guido. It's
Guido, come here for a second.
I
I need to
know.
ask your mom something real quick.
Guido, come here. Come here, buddy. Come here. I know it's just they're probably bringing me a package.
That's okay. So I have one last question.
Okay.
And I ask everybody the same question. And I don't give you this question beforehand because I don't want anyone to think about it. I want it to kind of just come from the heart, come from the soul.
I'm gonna go outside. I'm taking
And
this with me.
yep, and it doesn't have to be about you. It doesn't have to be about your family. It doesn't have to be about religion or anything. But if you had one thought that you wanted to leave people with, just one feeling, one thought, one phrase.
Mm.
Just if you wanted to just leave us with something before we go, what would that thought be?
Oh gosh, it's so easy. That is so easy. Those that put their faith in God will never be disappointed. It's just that simple.
It's just that simple.
Those who put their faith in God will never be disappointed, never be disappointed. So
You
easy.
didn't even have to think about it.
No, and it's not something I've ever said before. But you know what? It's absolutely the truth because at this point in my life, remember when you're old, the good thing about getting old is that you've learned all this. You've learned it.
Yeah.
And
And
what
can you imagine this, Velma, for a second? I mean, think about what we just did here in just this one last minute. Okay. Think about when you started off, when your husband left, right? And here you are, devastated. You got these street kids.
yeah,
You've got no job. You've got nothing.
nothing.
Think about that. And now
Mm.
you you pick up this device that you're talking into, that we're looking at each other like the Jetsons,
It's something. Yeah.
and we're putting together this awesome podcast. You've given us all this amazing inspiration. You've written 2 books. You're a TikTok sensation.
Oh,
I
thank you,
mean, can you
Jesus.
imagine that Velma Hagar? Screw Sammy. Sammy can't. You're in the Hall of Fame. You're in the
Oh, thank
kick-ass. I did
you.
it. What if you
Oh
could Hall of
man.
Fame right now?
Oh God, I'm telling you, thank you, Jesus. I give him all the glory. It is amazing, isn't it? When and looking back, my line that I use on TikTok, because I have a lot of young people, and I'm like a grandma to them. And Bubby is the Jewish word for grandma. Even though I'm Italian, they say nonna in
Yeah,
Italian, but
we used to say bubbler. We used to say bubbler all
Bubla,
the
bubla.
time.
Well, bubla
Bubbler.
is a sweet means sweetheart or something. Yeah, but I'm Bubby, and so I always say to those kids, now listen to me, because Bubby knows stuff like this. She's very old and she knows stuff like this. I mean, that's my line. And then I'm shaking my finger, you got to be sure and do this now, you kids, because listen to you, Bubby. She knows stuff like this. She's very old. And that's my line on there, because it's true. When you get
It's true.
older, you do know. It's just from the years. If you didn't learn from those years, something's wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
And
want to,
but it's your passion to still keep doing it, right?
yes.
You can feel it when you're talking to, you're so vibrant. There's not a chance. People probably tell you all the time, there's no way you're 82. You're like 57. There's no freaking way. I mean, honestly, I've met you in person. I've seen you do this. It's your passion. It's
Yeah, it
just
is.
so it
It's
comes
passion.
right through.
Thank you, Lord. I'm so grateful that I have it's enthusiasm. And you know what the word enthusiasm means? It means with God. I love that. I love that.
I
It
did
means
not know
with
that.
God. Yeah, that's what it means. And I'm not sure where it's derived from and what language, but it means with God. And, honestly, I am blessed with enthusiasm, and I thank God for that. I give him the glory. I have lots of energy. My knees have gone amok and my eyes have gone amok, but the rest of me, I mean, I come out swinging every morning.
I love it. I love it. Well,
The
listen,
82-year
you
old,
are you're amazing. This has been so much fun.
I've
I'm so
loved it,
glad we did
Gary.
this. I've
I've
got to
loved it.
now I've got to get your book so I can come and have you sign it.
Yeah, my book. And
Um,
you be encouraged because you've got a lot going for you too. You really do. You've got a lot going. You're a good interviewer. You're not busy trying to get the attention. My Sammy, my brother, told me that. He said, when someone interviews you, a lot of times they just want to be but you're a real good interviewer. I mean, you really put me up on the platform, and I thank you for that. You let me run. You just let me run loose.
why would I stop? It's so good.
Well, let's
Why
have
would I
fun.
stop?
Yeah, yeah, honestly, and I'll get you a bottle of limoncello too.
All right, my dear, but you've been wonderful. I'm so grateful. We'll get this up and going, and I,
Good.
I, I just can't wait to get people. So we're gonna link your YouTube channel. We're gonna
Yeah.
link your
Mhm.
book on Amazon. We're
Perfect.
gonna we're gonna get your
Bubby
TikTok
Hagar,
linked. I
TikTok, Bubby
want
Hagar.
so when you see the podcast, everybody, you can go right to get more Velma because you need
Perfect.
more Velma in your life. Trust me on
Yes.
this one.
Bubby, you got to get some Bubby in
You
your life.
need some more
Yeah.
Bubby.
But
Where's
what's
my
so,
Bubby?
I have to tell you, Gary, the interesting thing with that Bubby thing, I mean, because it was a side hustle. I mean, I worked so hard with YouTube, to try to get my 1,000 people so I'd have my channel. But with TikTok, wham. And so I go down to the beach or something, and I see people. They go, "Oh, there's Bubby. They know me." I go, "My God!" When they call me Bubby, I know they're from TikTok, right? But I mean, all over. I go to the market. There's Bubby. Oh yeah, I mean, I
That's
go, God, I'm
incredible.
famous,
That's incredible.
famous.
And
But
when we get Bubby Limoncello on the market, it's gonna be a hit. It's gonna be a
I mean, it would.
sensation.
I
Bubby
know. I know.
Limoncello.
And I'm kind of like your mother here. I say I'm too old. I'm too old to do it because like everybody's saying, I've got another book ready to go, but I'm so old. I don't know if I
Well,
should.
doesn't Sammy have a booze?
He doesn't. Oh, he's got it. Yeah, that's what
He
I'm telling you. He's got Cabo Wabo. He
it's
sold his
tequila,
Cabo.
right?
Let me tell you, you got to hear one more thing.
Okay.
His Cabo Wabo tequila.
Yeah.
He had a little guy come into the Cabo Wabo and say to him, I'm making this tequila. And he ends up having him bring it to the club, and he buys it from him, right? Pretty soon he buys the whole place he makes it. Do you know what he sold that Cabo Wabo tequila for? $100 million. $100 million. He ended up bottling it himself. All right, the guy's just bringing it into him. I mean, talk about horseshoe up his butt. I mean, $100 million. He sold
Wow.
it to Campari. Campari bought it.
Wow.
So
Now
now,
see, now
now he's
see
got
how now you got to call Campari and say, "Hey, I'll make you a similar deal on my Bubby Limoncello."
yeah, I know. I should. If I were younger, I'd be right on his tail
There's
doing it.
still time, sisters.
But
There's still time.
he also did the Beach Bar rum.
Mhm.
That's his. And now he's got that thing. He and Guy Ferrari, they got that thing. It's called, what is it? I don't know. It's some kind of alcohol. I'm not even sure what it's called. But, oh, Santo. It's Santo. It's called Santo, Santo. Yeah, I think it's tequila again. And so he's, yeah. But
I
but
love it.
there's another whole story. But you know what? I could go on and on. I'm not
We'll
going to
go on. And on. That's for the
tell.
next podcast. That's for the next one. If you
We'll do
could.
it again. We'll
We'll
do it
do it
again.
again.
All
You're
right, my
amazing.
friend.
All right,
You're
kiddo.
the best.
Listen, thank you so much. We're gonna link this. I'm gonna send you a copy right
Perfect.
away, and I'm
Perfect.
so grateful. Love you. This is
I
fun.
love this was
Let's
fun.
do it again.
I hope your son wins. I want your son to win.
I hope he makes it too. I can't wait to call him Mr. Mayor. All
Yeah,
right,
me
kiddo.
too. Me
Let's
too.
go.
Let's